Thanks, Councillor Harvey. We're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our April Cabinet meeting. It's good to see you all here today. Item number 1 on our agenda today, then, apologies for absence. I don't believe we've got any apologies. We'll move then to item number 2, declarations of interest. Anybody got anything to declare? No?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you for that then. Item number 3 on our agenda today, the minutes from the March Cabinet, and you can see these on pages 3 to 12 of the packs that we've had, colleagues. Obviously, we've all had an opportunity to read through these. Are colleagues content that these are a true record of our meeting?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, second.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there are no matters arising. Item number 4, our pay and reward policy for 2022-23. It's available on pages 13 to 52 of the packs that we have. Now, as you know, colleagues, we are required to set out a pay and reward policy, which outlines the current position in respect of pay and reward within the council. So this is our annual report, and it does need to be adopted by the council. It sets out the internal mechanisms for remunerating our council officers and provides any changes since the last adoption. Now, the policy was last approved in March 2021. There are no proposed changes to it this year. However, there are some minor legislative updates as a result of the Local Government and Elections Bill, which require removal of a reference to the head of paid service and the replacement of the term salary with remuneration. I can confirm that these legislative updates have been included in this year's policy. I'd also like to highlight the annual gender pay gap that is published on the Council's website. I'm pleased to report that the mean pay gap has decreased for a third year to 1.49% from last year's reported 1.92%, while the median pay gap is currently 2%. Our gender pay gap continues to compare favourably with other councils across Wales and the UK average of 15.4, but we will maintain these efforts to eliminate the pay gap between men and women employed by the council. I'd also like to note, colleagues, that the report does highlight the fact that in November 2021, the real living wage increased to £9.90, and the report makes it absolutely clear that Newport City Council will pay a supplement to all employees whose contractual pay falls below that rate to bring it up to the real living wage. And that concludes the annual update on that. Would anybody like to comment?
Well, thank you.
Colleagues content to agree that report then? Yeah.
Yes, happy for that, Leader. Yeah.
Second. Yes.
Yeah, everyone happy with that? Okay, then. So thank you, colleagues, for approving the pay and reward policy and ensuring that we meet the statutory requirement for that pay policy statement to be approved and published by council on an annual basis. Now we'll move on then to the next item on our agenda, which is item number 5. And this item is on the national collaborative arrangements for Welsh Local Authority adoption and fostering services. The National Adoption Service for Wales, Foster Wales, Enhancing Governance, Leadership and Enabling. And this is on pages 53 to 62 of your packs. Now, as you will have seen in the packs, colleagues, the purpose of this report is to update on proposals for developing the governance and enabling for the National Adoption Service for Wales, as it assumes the responsibility for Foster Wales, and we're also asked to consider agreement to signing the joint committee agreement for this proposed joint committee. As you know, colleagues, the National Adoption Service has been operating effectively for the 22 Welsh authorities, hosted by Cardiff and supported by a joint committee. It's proposed that as the National Adoption Service Director and the central team has also been supporting the National Fostering Framework, now called Foster Wales, that a similar collaboration agreement, although not a national fostering service, is created. The reason that a legal agreement is required for a national approach within fostering is because currently, unlike for adoption, there's no legislation that supports the Foster Wales collaboration. Foster Wales already supports Foster Newport with foster carer recruitment and retention, and it's hoped that this collaboration will support a longer term reduction in costs and, importantly, an increased flexibility of service. For Foster Newport, this will mean that recruitment and retention of carers and other linked activities will be supported nationally by the central team. Foster Wales has already supported Foster Newport through advertising and specialised recruitment campaigns that have further reach than have previously been achieved by Newport alone. The recruitment and retention of foster carers is vitally important to meet Foster Newport's sufficiency requirements to reduce the number of private foster care providers. Now, this activity is supported by Welsh Government to the end of March 2023, with a response currently awaited from Welsh Government in relation to options for funding beyond the grant aid timescale. It is acknowledged that resolving this will require the commitment of both local and Welsh Government. The preferred option for Newport is that we support this collaboration and continue to benefit from the Foster Wales support and continue to support collaborative working on a national basis. I'm just going to pause at that point, colleagues, and invite any comments on that particular report. Cabinet Member, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I thank you, Leader. I'm really quite supportive of the concept of this, and I think that it seemed very sensible, and especially really hopefully it's going to, certainly with the foster carers, it will be reducing the independent sector, which Welsh Government are very keen on pushing as well. So I think that is something that we really want to do as well, and that will enhance us more with our local foster carers. There's just 2 points I'm just a little bit concerned at, and just I'm not saying we can do a lot. The one is I felt that the number of staff seemed a little bit excessive, if I was honest. If you count them all up, I can't remember whether it was it 26? I thought for the two. I thought that was, but you know, who am I? I'm just saying that someone obviously have done their homework on that, but it just seemed a bit excessive. The other thing is I think we need to be mindful that the funding is only up to 2023, and after that, I think then we haven't had any guarantee from Welsh Government where the funding is going to come from. So that's just the 2 points. But other than that, I think it's most sensible really to move along the lines that is being suggested by yourself.
Okay, thanks for that. Are there any further comments from colleagues? Would anybody else like to comment?
Can I come in, Leader?
Of course, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm showing my age now, Leader. I was actually involved in the 2015 implementation of the National Fostering Framework, so it's positive to see this evolving, which is what it is really. It's an evolution into Fostering Wales. But I agree with the points raised by my colleague, but also I think it does give us an advantage in that sort of marketing and recruitment area where you mentioned, where we often have faced difficulties, I guess, in competing with the private sector. So there are lots of positives in the report, and I think it'll give the Welsh framework certainly more resilience, and obviously allow us to, as we're already doing in Newport, bring many more children home and look after them locally, and certainly within the Welsh framework. So I think it's a really good move forward.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Hughes. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, any further comments from colleagues on this particular item?
Thank you.
So I think there's strong support for this, and we've had some great feedback there from colleagues in terms of the update. So colleagues are content to agree to the Newport City Council signing the joint committee agreement. Yeah, everyone happy with it?
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's great. Thank you all for that. We move then to item number 6 on our agenda, which is the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021 Corporate Self-Assessment, and you've had an opportunity to read this on pages 63 to 68 of your packs. And you will recall, colleagues, that in February last year, the Local Government and Elections Wales Act received royal assent, and this requires local authorities to publish an annual self-assessment of its governance and performance arrangements. The report before us today presents the proposed approach that the Council will undertake to complete its annual self-assessment. The Local Government Act requires Newport Council to undertake an annual self-assessment to ensure that it's exercising its functions effectively, using its resources economically, efficiently and effectively, and that the Council's governance arrangements are effective for securing these areas. The Council is also required to consult with the residents and businesses of Newport, Council staff and trade unions. Now, in the last year, as you'll be aware, the Council has been looking at options to identify the best course of action in relation to these requirements within the resources that are available to us. Now, 3 options were considered by the Council, including undertaking a standalone self-assessment, integrating the self-assessment with the Council's annual governance statement, and integrating the self-assessment into the Council's annual corporate wellbeing report. The report outlines the preferred approach, which is to integrate the self-assessment into the Council's annual corporate wellbeing report. The Council's annual wellbeing report also provides an overview of the Council's performance in the previous financial year and includes an oversight of the Council's arrangements for its governance, finances and progress against the Council's corporate plan. The annual report will be improved to accommodate the new requirements set out in the Act. Governance arrangements on the scrutiny of the report will remain in place, but will also now consider the feedback provided by the Council's Governance and Audit Committee. The self-assessment report will be published later this year and will be available in English and Welsh. So any comments on this particular item, colleagues?
Thank you.
No, thanks, Leader.
Okay, well, it's quite a self-explanatory, isn't it? So if there aren't any further comments, is colleagues content to agree this approach to our self-assessment, the approach that's outlined in the report, and for our first self-assessment to be completed as part of the Council's corporate annual report 21-22. Is everyone content with that? Yeah.
Yes, Leader, yeah.
Leader.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We move then to item number 7 on our agenda today. Now, a standing item, as you know, the COVID-19 Response and Recovery Update Report. This can be found on pages 69 to 84 on your packs. Now, you will recall, colleagues, that for the past 2 years, we've been considering this as a standing item on our agenda for Cabinet, so that we can have regular updates on the progress of both our response and our recovery in relation to the COVID pandemic, but also in order to ensure that we have in these discussions in an open and transparent way in a public environment, so that the people of Newport can also get a better understanding of the activities that have been undertaken in relation to this. So this Cabinet report provides an update on our response to the pandemic and our recovery, ensuring that residents and businesses comply with the current restrictions, and also the progress being made in terms of our strategic recovery aims and our corporate plan. Now, since the last report that we received, COVID cases have been increasing and they do remain prevalent across Newport's communities. The latest ONS survey findings suggest a rise in case rates is driven by a subtype of the Omicron variant. The number of hospitalisations and beds occupied with COVID-19 related patients remain low, although the impacts of restrictions over the past 2 years continue to impact health and social care settings. Now, as at the 28th of March, you will be aware, colleagues, that Wales remains at alert level 0 with several legal restrictions in place. The requirement to self-isolate following a positive COVID-19 test has now been changed to guidance, and the £500 self-isolation payment to support people will continue to be available until June 2022. You'll all be aware, colleagues, that Welsh Government continue to monitor the current public health situation and will further assess the potential to remove all remaining legal measures for the next 21-day review by the 14th of April. So for Newport Council, to be absolutely clear, the advice remains for elected members and officers to work remotely unless otherwise required by their role. And as we've discussed on a number of occasions here in Cabinet, you will be aware, colleagues, that as part of the Council's new normal project, we are preparing for staff to undertake hybrid working, ensuring that rooms and facilities across the Council's estate are suitable and safe places to work, and also undertake our democratic roles. So just really considering some highlights then in terms of the service areas and our strategic recovery aims. I'm pleased that there's been an extension to the free school meals, which covers the forthcoming May half-term and the summer holiday period. We've also been working across our communities, and this is really important when you reflect on our journey over the past 2 years, to provide drop-in sessions for basic digital skills and courses through our adult community learning. And businesses have received Welsh Government rate relief, and our climate change plan has been adopted. As an employer, we continue to follow the guidance for staff to work from home unless required by their role. And I'm really pleased that our library and museum services are now being delivered in the way that they were prior to the pandemic. As you'll all know, colleagues, and we know this only too well from decisions that we've made previously this year, there is a need to continue to support food banks and food projects, and Newport City Council does do this. And I'm really pleased that our participatory budget events have concluded with a total of 80 projects securing funding towards local projects. So in terms of recovery then, obviously, as we move out of the response phase now, we will be focused more on recovery going forward, and it's really positive to highlight some aspects of that in terms of our strategic recovery aims. Would anybody like to comment on this particular item? Councillor Truman.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I agree with you when you pointed out the numbers are rising considerably, and the experts say, well, that's bound to happen because everybody's mixing now, and the measures have been slackened off, if you like, for want of a better word. But as I say, the licensing officers and the health inspectors and things they're still busy, very busy actually, still covering care settings and schools and offering advice to businesses on their risk assessments, which retail premises got to do. So offering advice and still out doing the inspections as they've been right through the system. They're still doing it today. And obviously we all applaud that and I hope it continues, but there certainly need to be vigilant. I'm not trying to teach Granny to suck eggs, but we all need to be vigilant because we've been under the cosh for the last 2 years, and sadly a lot of people have died. So we've got to have that, be respectful, and as I say, we need to be very careful what we're doing. Common sense has got to come into it, a lot of it, but we've come this far, and I think we can come through it. But we've all got to remember, keep our eye on the ball, as a football analogy. Keep our eye on the ball. Thanks, Leader.
Absolutely, Councillor Truman. Absolutely, completely agree with you there. Thank you for those comments. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Leader. It's just a couple of comments I'd like to make. You know, you've certainly identified, and we all are fully aware that the Omicron virus is prevalent at the moment, and that is having an impact on our schools. It really, really is. And what I want to do is thank and praise our teaching staff and our support staff to endeavouring to work incredibly hard to keep our schools open wherever possible. We've already entered now the exam period. For the first time, many of our students are taking exams for the first time, and that has to be the priority, that those students get to sit those exams. You know, it's the first time in 2 years that we've undertaken this process. So I want to thank our staff that despite seeing some year closures within our secondary schools, they've still seen that's a priority to ensure that those exams are properly supported and those students are supported, and those are still continuing. And we will ensure that our students get the best results possible during this forthcoming year, despite the rise of the Omicron virus variant. That is certainly an issue. And across all the schools, it's incredible the work that's going on to ensure that children are still remaining within the classroom. But I also like to mention is the free school meals. Again, you know, I'm very grateful to Welsh Government for continuing the provision of free school meals across all our schools and right through the summer holidays. Very much needed for many of our families at this particular point in time. And I think that fits very tidily with the Welsh Government plans for free school meal provision that's going to be extended above and beyond that. And we go straight in September with our foundation phase being provided with free school meals. So it links in tightly with that provision, but that'll be for all children in Newport. And I think that's something that we can look forward to. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davis, for sharing that information with us and really emphasising the importance of that. Your comments are welcomed there. Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. I share the comments of my previous colleagues who've spoke before me. It's sad to say, but without the free school meals going on through the summer and the Easter breaks, I don't know how a lot of my residents would cope, and that's the bare truth. I'm really pleased with the way we've dealt with COVID. Obviously, we're not resting on our laurels, and it is still there. As Councillor Truman said, it's still there. It's still raging around. People seem to think it's gone away. It hasn't. It's just another be careful, be safe, and let's just carry on moving forward. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about COVID in a past tense instead of the present tense we have for the last few years. Thanks, Leader.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to take the opportunity, Leader, as a trustee of one of our local food banks, just to thank the council really for the support that's ongoing. The demands and challenges, I think, as you appreciate, are pretty unprecedented at the moment, with many families finding things particularly difficult. And also, I've had the opportunity recently to visit all the hubs in Newport, and I just wanted to sort of express our gratitude really and thanks to the ongoing work and you know in offering a wide range of services that these hubs produce to our residents at the time they most need it. So I just wanted to sort of just recognise the work really that the hubs are doing throughout Newport. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hughes, and I think that's a really good example of how we've been close to the community, you know, and it's really helped our communities during this really difficult period. So thank you for highlighting that. Newport City Council will continue to deliver their services in the heart of their communities. So thank you all for that. Are there any further comments from colleagues on this particular item?
Well, thank you.
Colleagues content to accept the report then?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on our agenda then. This is item number 8, our post-EU transition update report. It's on page 85 to 92 of the packs, and this is an update, as you know, colleagues, that we've added as a regular agenda item to our meetings. We've done this in order to ensure that we are thoroughly briefed on the on the impact of this. And you'll know that since our last report, our report in March, there continues to be ongoing issues with the cost of living, and more recently, sad to say, the war in Ukraine. Following several announcements from the UK government and Welsh government on how we'll support Ukrainian refugees to settle in Wales, our council services have been working tirelessly to prepare and to support refugees here in Newport. Now, we're starting to see our first arrivals, and our services will be supporting them to settle in the city. So, and all colleagues receive regular updates on that. So it's really important to be aware. There's a huge swell of support for this, and the council is playing its part as well. Sadly, colleagues, we know that the cost of living is continuing to impact on our households in Newport, and there continues to be support provided by the council to help families that are struggling with their food and their energy bills. And we've touched on that already. So as you know, the City Council will be administering the council tax rebate relief for bands A to D properties, and those payments, or how to access those payments, will be available to our residents very soon, because we all know how important it is and how very necessary it is that our families and households receive those payments. And we've also agreed a rate relief for businesses in line with both the Welsh Government Business Rate Relief Scheme and our own rate relief scheme supporting local businesses. So the City Council has implemented these measures to try and ameliorate some of the impact. However, of course, as we know, today is the first day of the new financial year, and the increase in national insurance contributions is upon us. So whilst we can try and ameliorate it, there are still pressures. Now, as we've already mentioned, we're also continuing to support food poverty groups and organisations providing funding and support to distribute both food and debt advice. But we know, colleagues, we know that the need for this is going to grow. The report also recognises that there's still more the council can and will do to support disadvantaged and vulnerable groups in Newport, and we'll be developing our work alongside third sector and other public services to address the concerns raised by our residents. Just going to pause at that point. Would anybody like to comment on that particular item? No? Okay, so that's our regular update. As you'll be aware, colleagues, this is a standing item and will continue to be a standing item. I should also highlight, not just for the purposes of colleagues on the call, but for the public, that there is a section on our website devoted to the Ukraine and issues around that and how to access support, etc. So that information is there, it's in the public domain, and please share that as widely as possible so that those people who are seeking help or seeking to provide support and assistance can get that information there. So is everybody content with that report?
Yes, happy with that, Leader.
Yeah.
Yes, very happy. Okay.
Item number 9 then. It's just the Cabinet Work Programme. That's available on pages 93 to 100, and a colleague's content to accept that.
Yes, happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the last formal item on the agenda today, and as you'll be aware, colleagues, this is actually the final Cabinet meeting of this particular administration, as we're now in the pre-election period. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you as colleagues for your support during the last 2 years. I'm sure the Deputy Leader and I have really appreciated and welcome the support that you've shown for us throughout this really challenging period. However, it would be remiss of me not to close this meeting without saying a huge thank you to our officers for everything that they've done to really bring Newport through this unprecedented experience, and really equip us with what we need to continue to operate the democratic process in the appropriate way. So a huge thank you to all of our officers, but particularly in relation to this meeting, the Democratic Services team, who've been absolutely outstanding in equipping members and ensuring that members can continue to represent their communities effectively. So thank you everybody for that. And I think at this point we'll draw the meeting to a close. So thank you everyone, and Councillor Truman, thank you for your outstanding service to the City of Newport. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bev, could you stay on for 2 minutes about tomorrow's meeting?